Here, and today we're going to talk about verbs that are irregular in the yo form. Now, when we talk about verbs, we have regular verbs and irregular verbs, which sometimes get a bad rap because they're a little bit more work. We have to memorize them. But they are very useful and they're really important to know. So today we're going to talk about some special verbs that are irregular in the yo form, in the first person singular. And these are often referred to as yo-go or go-yo verbs. So it's just a fun way of referring to these verbs. Now, let's talk about what a regular verb is and what an irregular verb is really quickly before we get started. A regular verb is a verb that follows the normal patterns of conjugation. So for the present tense, that means you're going to drop the AR, ER, and IR and simply add on the endings that correspond to the person doing the action, the subject. Now, irregular verbs are going to not follow these patterns, and we saw some of these irregular verbs when we saw stem-changing verbs. Also, the verb ser, we saw that's an irregular verb as well. So again, an irregular verb means it doesn't follow the normal patterns of conjugation like a regular verb does. And so these yo-go verbs that we're going to see today are going to have some differences in the yo form. And a couple of these are going to have some differences in some of the other forms as well. And so we're going to take a look at that. All right, so first let's go through and pronounce the verbs that we're going to work with today, and then we're going to talk about the conjugation. All right, repiten. Hacer, poner, salir, traer, ver, oír, dar, conducir, decir, seguir. Okay, so these verbs, as I said, they're going to be irregular in the yo form. And we've already seen a verb like this. Do you remember the verb tener? Tener is an ER verb. And if it were a regular verb, we would just drop the ER and add the endings. But it's not a regular verb. It's irregular. And actually, this one's irregular for a couple of different reasons. It's a partial stem changer, meaning that the stem vowel is going to change when it's conjugated, so from an E to an IE. And it's also irregular in the yo form. So we say tengo instead of teno. So instead of just dropping the ER and putting an O, it changes to tengo. So this one's an irregular yo verb as well. So I just want to call that to your attention that you have already seen verbs like this. So tener is an example of one of these yo-go or go-yo verbs. All right, so hacer means to do or to make. So if I do my homework, hago la tarea. So let's go over these pronunciations. Hago, haces, hace, hacemos, hacéis, and hacen. Now, if you look at this, and I have underlined the endings for you, it still follows the normal endings for an ER verb. So even though we're inserting a G, it's still going to end in O. So the endings, O, S, E, hemos, eis, en, are still going to look like your ER endings. So keep that in mind. It's still an ER verb. We're still conjugating it like an ER verb. It's just there's something different about the yo form. Hago. All right, poner is to put or to place. So I can place something, I can place this on the table. I can poner la pizarra en la mesa, ¿sí? Pongo la pizarra en la mesa. I put the board on the table. So the pronunciation of the conjugations, pongo, pones, pone, ponemos, ponéis, and ponen. So poner is to put or to place, and it's also a yo-go verb. Salir means to leave or to go out. And the conjugations go like this. Salgo, sales, sale, salimos, salís, and salen. So again, you'll notice this is an IR verb, and the endings o, es, e, imos, is, and en are just like any other IR verb. It's just that in the yo form, it's salgo. So it's irregular in the yo form. And a couple of things I want to mention about this verb. We can use certain prepositions after this verb in order to indicate, to change the meaning of what we're trying to say. So salir means to leave or to go out. If I'm saying I leave from somewhere, I'm going to follow it with de. Salgo de mi casa. I leave my house. Even though the from might not be said in English, we would use it in Spanish. Because we are implying that we're leaving from someplace. So we need to use that preposition de after salir. If I want to say salgo para mi casa, I'm leaving to go to my house, I can use para, which can mean toward or for, as in directional. Salgo para mi casa, I'm going out to my house. I'm leaving to go out to my house. Or I could say, salgo para España mañana. I'm leaving to Spain tomorrow. I'm talking directionally. I'm leaving to go somewhere. So I can follow salir with para in order to convey that meaning. And one of the other prepositions that you can use with salir is salir con. So to go out with or to leave with. So if I want to say I go out with my friends, salgo con mis amigas. I go out with my friends. Con means with. And salir can also mean to go out with as far as dating. So based on context, you would know whether or not you were talking about dating, but you can use salir for this verb as well. All right, traer is to bring, and let's go over the pronunciation of the conjugations. Traigo, traes, trae, traemos, traéis, and traen. So traer is to bring, and again, it's an ER verb. You're going to notice the same endings on this verb as the other ER verbs. It's just the yo form is irregular. Traigo. All right, the verb ver is to see, and the conjugations are veo, ves, ve, vemos, veis, and ven. And the reason that this is irregular is that because if you were to follow the normal patterns of conjugation, you would drop the ER. So there would be just vo, vos, or yeah. So it's irregular because it doesn't exactly follow that normal pattern of conjugation. So veo is the irregular yo form, and ver means to see. All right, the next verb is oír, and oír means to hear. See? Oigo, oyes, oye, oímos, oís, and oyen. Now, remember that I said that we had verbs that are irregular in the yo form, but some that are irregular in the other forms as well. And this is one of those verbs. So we see here that I is going to change to a y. And we've seen this phenomena before. Anytime the I is too quiet to be heard, or we need that extra help with pronunciation to maintain the integrity of the root of the word. So this is going to change to a y in a few of these conjugations. All right, the verb dar means to give. Doy, das, da, damos, dais, and dan. So doy in the irregular yo form. And you'll notice that a couple of these vosotros forms don't have accent marks, and that's because they're just one syllable. We don't need the accent mark there, so pay attention to that as well. All right, conducir is to drive, and the conjugations are conduzco, conduces, conduce, conducimos, conducís, and conducen. And this is going to change to a Z-C-O And what you're going to find in Spanish is oftentimes verbs that end in CER or CIR are going to be irregular. So watch out for that. And an example of this is hacer, CER, and conducir that we just talked about. So this is going to change to ZCO. And the reason is to maintain the integrity of the root. If you listen to the infinitive conducir, we need that sound to remain in the infinitive. So we're going to throw that Z in there to make that happen. Conduzco. So that we still have the integrity of that sound of the infinitive. All right, the verb decir means to say or to tell, and the conjugations are digo, dices, dice, decimos, decís, and dicen. And you'll notice that although this one is a yo-go, meaning irregular in the yo form, it's also a stem changing verb. So it's an E to I stem changer. So digo, dices, dice, decimos, decís, and dicen. Remember that stem changing verbs do not stem change in the nosotros and the vosotros forms. So that's why that is still left as an E. All right, and our last yo-go verb that we're going to talk about today is seguir. And seguir means to follow. Now be careful on the pronunciation because a lot of times students will want to say seguir, and that's not it. It's a hard G, and oftentimes when you have a G and a U together, it's just going to be the G sound. So that U is kind of going to get absolved into the G sound. So seguir is the verb, and the conjugations are sigo, sigues, sigue, seguimos, seguís, and siguen. And this is a yo-go verb, and it's also a stem-changing verb. So the E is going to change to an I in all of the forms except the nosotros and vosotros because those forms don't stem change. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice. I have 5 sentences for you, and I'm going to say the sentence in English, and I'd like you to write out how you would say this sentence in Spanish. Please feel free to pause the video so that you have time to write out your sentence. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to give you sentences 1 through 5, and then I'm going to talk about the answers with you. So if you need to pause the video before I go over the answers, please feel free to do that. Make sure you have a pencil and paper. It's important to practice. And also when you're practicing at home, make sure you're practicing the pronunciations out loud. You need to be speaking the conjugations so that you not only know how to pronounce them, but you know how they sound when someone says them to you so that you can more easily recognize them. Okay, so for our first sentence, I would like you to write in Spanish, I leave my house, or I leave the house. Let's say that. I leave the house. Now, remember, we're leaving from a place. Even though it's not said in English, I'm implying it. So make sure you pay attention to that. I leave my house. I leave from the house. Number 2. I do the homework every day. I do the homework every day. I do the homework every day. And again, you can pause the video if you need time to write. Number 3, I put the book on the table. I put the book on the table. Number 4, I come to Spanish class. I come to Spanish class. Now, this one is going to be a verb that we didn't talk about today, but we have seen before. The verb is venir, venir, and it follows the same conjugations as the verb tener, okay? So watch out for that. And the last one is I have 2 classes this semester. I have 2 classes this semester. Let's go over the answers and see how you did. All right, so the first one, I leave the house, implying that I leave from the house. Salgo de la casa. If you put mi casa, that's fine. Salgo de mi casa, salgo de la casa. Number 2, I do the homework every day. Hago la tarea todos los días. Todos los días means every day. Number 3, I put the book on the table. Pongo el libro en la mesa. Number 4, I come to Spanish class. Vengo a la clase de español. So again, venir means to come, and it's conjugated just like the verb tener. And number 5, I have 2 classes this semester. Tengo 2 clases este semestre. All right, if you have any questions about Yogo verbs, please reach out to me. I'm here to help you. A great way to practice is to just sit down, write out the conjugations, practice saying them out loud, and also put them into context. Try using the conjugations, the verbs, in a sentence. Whether you're speaking or writing, it's a really great way to practice. Okay, clase, nos vemos. Hasta luego.